Hey there, I'm Paul Phrampus from Wiser. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 5 crucial elements associated with simulation scenarios. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, I'm Paul Phrampus, the Director of Wiser. I want to talk to you today about 5 crucial time elements associated with simulation scenarios. Time elements that could have implications associated with your scenario design activities, but more important, with the scheduling of your simulation scenarios and how they run, how they affect various people in your center. So let's start off by thinking about the different vantage points and people that might care about time associated with the scenario. Well, first off, your instructors. They're always interested to know, how long should this scenario take? How long should this debriefing take? Similarly, if you're in a program where you're using simulations involving humans, so you have standardized patients, standardized people, or other embedded participants, they certainly care about the time. Your technical staff, they care a lot about the time associated with your scenarios. How much time does it take to set things up? How much time does it break things down? And some other elements about time that are crucial for your technical support staff. Lastly, your center directors. So we can think about simulation scenarios in isolation, so a single event, or we could think about courses, is how we would describe it at Wiser, where you would stack several different simulations perhaps up into one learning activity. Center directors care about time. How long do these simulation activities take? Because it has implications on how much scheduling can be done inside the center to get the biggest bang for the buck out of the use for the simulation equipment, as well as the simulation space or environment that the simulation is going to take place in. So let's take a look. When we talk about simulation time or time elements, most people think about the simulation scenario itself. And a typical simulation scenario is a pre-briefing of some sort and a simulation, and then a debriefing. Well, the first elements of time that I like to talk about, because it's the one everybody thinks about, sort of starts right here at the pre-briefing and ends at the simulation. We refer to that as the simulation runtime. That's one block of time that's very, very important. How long from the beginning of the engagement with the students until the end of the simulation, but before the debriefing, we characterize that as the runtime. Next, the debriefing time is the next kind of most obvious time frame that everybody picks up on. And that is simply from beginning to end, how long does the debriefing take, or how long should it take? What's it scheduled to take? Okay. The next set of times that we need to think about, a lot of people forget about, but the technical staff will remind you over and over again, and that is the setup time and the cleanup time. These are critically important. These are important to lots of people behind the scenes that make simulation scenarios come to life, but also for the faculty and for the other people involved in the simulation scenarios. Because we want to create an environment that the simulation room is up and ready for our instructors to begin as soon as the scheduled time arrives. So it's important from a center management perspective that we incorporate this setup time. Similarly, at the end of the simulation scenario, or series of scenarios, if you will, there's a cleanup time associated with it. And during this cleanup time, nothing else can be scheduled within the simulation center because the work still needs to be done. There's another tricky element of time. The 5th element of time is what I like to call it. So our first element is our run time. Our second element is our debriefing time. Third element is setup time. Fourth element is the cleanup time. The next one I want to talk about is the transition time. And this transition time means if you are going to run and repeat the same scenario, so at the end of the simulation, we're going to transition the room back to where the scenario starts over again. We like to refer to that as the transition time or the room reset time. Okay? This is a tricky one because this can sort of happen in 2 different possible configurations. One is depicted here. So the faculty and students would be adjourned to a different room or different space perhaps, and during the debriefing, the room is reset to get ready to run the simulation scenarios again. And that's fantastic if you have a support staff that's helping you, somebody else to kind of flip the room, either another faculty member, maybe a simulation specialist or technician. But what if you're in a small center and you're running things yourself and you're a one-person band? You're setting up the room, you're running the simulation, you're conducting the debriefing, as well as setting up the room again for the next simulation. Well, in that case, the transition time might look like this. And that is, now we have to wait until the end of the debriefing to occur before we can do this transition to get the room ready to go again. Okay. So what kind of things happen during this transition time? Things like putting the equipment back in the place that it starts from at the beginning of the scenario. Perhaps resetting equipment that was used during the last run of the scenario so that it's back. Maybe we're going to replenish the code cart and put everything back to where it's supposed to be. Maybe we need to pull needles out of the chest if there was a chest decompression. Maybe we need to think about, how does this room need to look at the beginning of the scenario? What things may have changed during the scenario that we need to reset? These are common things that we need to think about when we talk about the transition time of a simulation scenario. So that's about it. Just wanted you to think about this in terms of your scenario design activities, but more importantly, when you go to run the simulations to create all that great learning. Hey, let me ask you a favor. If you like these videos we do for Wiser, hit that subscribe button. If this one was particularly good for you, hit the like button. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. So thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed this, talking about the 5 crucial times associated with simulation scenarios. Until next time, happy simulating.